Hello, everyone. Glad to have you here. This is OG here. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being here today. Today, I'm having a special guest. Now, if you've been on this channel before and you've been coming in on different occasions, I can see NeoZip TV here. Hi, host. Glad to have you here, NeoZip TV. Thank you so much for being here. Rianjo Vlogs is here. Thank you so much for being here. Mustafa Hussein, thank you so much, Mustafa, for your support. So glad to have you here. Now, we're transmitting on different social media here. We're on Facebook, and then we're on YouTube. Now, sometimes when you chat on Facebook, it takes a while for it to get to YouTube. So if I don't reply you, please just bear with me. I can see Gillian Abog here. Gillian, thank you so much for coming in here. So glad to have you here. We'll just set our camera and make sure everyone can hear me clearly. I'm having a special guest today, the special guest, and we're talking about a special topic which is relevant to everyone. So glad to have everyone in this place. Thank you so much for coming in. And I really appreciate your presence here. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, we've got like 6 people here right now. Thank you so much. There's a new comment here. Yeah, NeoZop TV, thank you so much, NeoZop TV. Glad to have you here. Just going to do some little bit of setting to make sure everyone can hear me. St. King, thank you so much, St. King, for being here. Hello, host. Glad to have you here. Thank you very much for coming in. We're going to do a little bit of setting, and then we're just going to kick off straight away. So bear with me a little bit while I get things ready. Then we'll be on and just run through. Yeah, I can. Yeah, okay, everyone, we are ready to go now. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the guest I'm bringing in today before I will bring her in. She's an amazing mother, a wife, a Christian, if I have to add that. She's just amazing. Her name is Boma Tonye, mostly known as Tonye. I think I'll stay with that. She's a registered UK independent prescriber, clinical physician. That's a lot, man. Clinical pharmacist with a special interest in diabetes and hypertension management. And she's the founder of Diabetes Consults. Wow. Now, Tonye graduated from University of East Anglia, United Kingdom, and is a member of the General Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain. She has a wealth of experience working in hospital settings, both within the National Health Services or NHS in the United Kingdom and the private sector. And she has chaired and also spoken on Diabetes UK platform and hosts a variety of diabetes and health-related events on our social media platform. And Tonye is an active member of a variety of associations such as Diabetes UK. We'll talk about that, and I'll tell you more about her. But first of all, I want to bring her in. Now, listen, guys, and as many people that will be watching us both on Facebook and YouTube, this is one topic that people mostly avoid. Now, I've worked with NHS for some time, and I remember coming to the country and had to go through this process of starting it from somewhere to get to where I'm going now. And sometimes you want to prick people on the fingers, you want to have them do their blood test. Some people don't want to do it. But how can we prevent the complication of type 2 diabetes? That's why I'm bringing her in today, so that she can speak to us, especially those in the prevent this kind of problem or issue. So let me bring her in now. She is right there. Here we are. Hello, Tony. So glad to. Oh my goodness, you look so pretty. Oh my God. What?
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm so glad to have you here. You know, I know you've got a busy schedule, you've got a lot of things you're doing, but so glad to have you here. I might position this a little bit so that we can see the background and everything. Let me see if that will work out. Is that good for everyone? I'll see, but I just keep playing around with it. So bear with me. But if you have any question, especially those of you that are coming in from Facebook, try as much as possible to either go on YouTube to type it or just wait a while and I'll get back to you on that. But so glad to have everyone here. Thank you so much, Tony, for coming in.
Thank you.
So let's go on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We've got a long time here. I'm just relaxing and listen, guys, is an evening table discussion. So it's a family. If you've got any question, you've got anything you want to ask, this is the time. We're here. We've got Tony here, so let's take advantage of it. Let's hear you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Like you rightly said, my name is Tony. Everybody calls me Tony. There's a long story behind the name Boma, but I won't go into it. I'm Tony Burrow. I'm married. Happily married, I have to add. And I have a beautiful daughter, 7-year-old. And I work obviously within the NHS. In primary care, particularly, I manage patients with diabetes. Mainly 80% of my clinic is a diabetic clinic with hypertension and all the complications that arise. I also do minor ailments, and I'm considered an advanced practitioner, and I look after patients with asthma as well. Outside work, I love God. I go to church. I like to mingle with friends and family. And I cook, entertain, and when I have the opportunity, I like to rest. My daughter would say, because it's a busy life. So yeah, resting with family, where my family is obviously where I am. I'm a sister, an auntie, and yada yada yada. Yeah.
Oh wow. Wow, you got so much you do. I know quite well that working with the NHS is quite hectic. I know quite well. I know that very well, you know. And working as a clinician, you said now, working with hypertensive patients and diabetic patients, which is quite, is one of the diseases that I know. If I could call it a disease, it's one of the diseases that is quite rampant among people. We're going to get into that and get to know. But why did you choose to become a pharmacist? Why didn't you just say, okay, well, I want to become a nurse. I want to go into health and safety as we are, or you know, so why pharmacist? Why did you become a pharmacist?
I've always liked to care for people. I've always been known as someone who's caring, as my father would always have said, bless his soul. And he wanted a doctor. By all means, he wanted me to be a doctor. He kept saying, "You're too bright, and you should become a doctor," and so on and so forth. And at a point, I considered it. I started off in Nigeria, obviously, had my primary education there and secondary education there. And then I started off at the University of Port Harcourt before they went on strike. And I was on the pathway to medicine. I was doing a foundation and then started off in anatomy because my father, like those other fathers, I don't know if you've ever had them, would never bribe anybody.
We know them.
Would never bribe anybody. And I had the cutoff mark, but they were being difficult. And he said, well, if you have to go the long way to do medicine, you will go the long way. So I started off with human anatomy. And then I say I was delivered because University of Port Harcourt went on strike. And we were at home for about 7 months, and my father got frustrated. So he wanted me to go to Ghana where he could keep his eyes on me. And somehow the person he got to try and get me admission to Ghana didn't go through. And my brother at the time was in England. And my brother was like, why don't you send her to England? But my father was like, no. When she goes to England, I don't want her to depend on any man. I don't want her to do this. I want to keep my eyes on her. Long and short of it was I ended up in England and I was free. And then I had to restart college again. My brother was, bless him, he wasn't the most patient. He still isn't the most patient of persons when it comes to looking for information. And he was just like, just redo the college, which was good for me in the end. So I redid college. And at the end of college, it was time to apply to uni. And I did apply to places like King's in London. And at the last minute, I sat down to ask myself, do you really want to be a doctor? Because at the time, a lot of my friends were in medical school. I could see them. I had friends who were doctors, cousins who were doctors. I come from a family of professionals.
Wow.
And I just saw my aunties who were doctors not having a life. Sorry, doctors. And I wanted to have a life. I really wanted to have a life, as I say. I couldn't be a nurse. And I give my hats off to anyone who's a nurse. Because I just didn't want to clean. At the time in Nigeria, I didn't want to clean after anybody. I can't stand things like that. So I thought, what can I do that's an in-between a doctor, as I looked at it, and that was pharmacy. So I looked into pharmacy. I enjoyed the pharmacology of drugs, and I liked the fact that we could be both understand the drugs as well as the disease area and be able to manage both. And I chose pharmacy, and I haven't regretted it so far.
Wow, that's a long one. So it's like in your career, you were torn between going with daddy's career or going with your career or going with what you have, what you like to do. Now, I want to say something on this channel. In the next few weeks, watch out for a video. I'm going to be giving you 6 courses that you can do without going to uni. 6 things that you can, just 6 careers that you can start off without going to uni. So it's going to be starting off soon. So if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscription button and then hit the notification button, and so that you get to know when it comes up. One question I want to ask you, Tony, as we were talking about that, do you need a degree to become a pharmacist?
Absolutely. So we're not one of your 6 things.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm absolutely sorry. We're not one of the 6 ones. To become an actual pharmacist, you need to go to university, and you need to study pharmacy in detail for 4 years. Now it's turning into 5 years. And then in my time, it was 4 years. And then you did 1 year in the hospital, which is your pre-registration year. And then you write the exam. And after 5 years, you qualify with your registration number as a pharmacist.
Wow. So in other words, there are different sectors that you have to go through as a pharmacist, or before you become a pharmacist.
Once you become a pharmacist, the choice is yours. You can either become a community pharmacist. So, for example, places like Boots, Lloyd's. You can become a hospital pharmacist, which is obviously the name gives it out. Work within the NHS or the private sector, or you can work within the industry.
Okay.
And become people who are involved in the making and the manufacturing and everything to do with the drugs. Or now, more recent times, you can become a general practice pharmacist, which is where I am. But to become a general practice pharmacist, you have to have had a couple of years experience as a pharmacist in general to go into general practice.
Wow. That's amazing. So it's quite a long, it's not just like you just come in and say, okay, well, I just want to go into pharmacy. You'll be ready to read, ready to study, and you're going to be involved with different people's lives and different sectors, even as you go on.
So I'm 15 years into being a pharmacist. So 15 years later, I'm still here.
15 years in.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, definitely your job is not going to be part of the ones I'm going to be talking about. But I want to acknowledge M&Z Tech Feed. Thank you so much for coming here. Renjo Vlog, thank you so much for coming in. Dylan Abog, so glad to have you here, guys. I'm so glad to have you guys here. Your support is just amazing. Thank you very, very much for that. One other question I want to ask you, Tori, is this, when it comes to pharmacy, what's that part that makes you like what you're doing? You know, what's that particular thing that just, you know, that when you wake up in the morning, this is the kick that makes you leave home and say, you know what, I'm going to meet some people today. What's that part?
People.
Wow.
People for me. I always say to my friends that if you catch me working as an industry pharmacist, then it must be that I'm going for the money. But I will be bored after a couple of months. Not because you don't deal with people that you work with, but I like patient interaction. I'm a people's person. I like to be around people. I like to see the impact, you know, and feel the impact and hear about people's stories, how you're making a difference or not making a difference in their lives. So people for me, and from the pharmaceutical aspect, I'm intrigued by the mechanism in which the drugs actually make a difference in people's lives. You know, the fact that you know the disease and there is a drug. And the combination of the two of them together, obviously being a Christian with God on top of everything, can see the transformation in people's lives.
We're going to be talking about that. I love that aspect. I love that aspect very well. The disease is there, the drug is there. So that means if the disease is there and the drug is there, there's a possibility of something coming out from the treatment. But we're going to get there. I don't want to rush there. You know, I have a question here. Why did you decide to focus on diabetes? Why that particular part? No?
I'm going to make this short because obviously I'm conscious of time and we have quite a lot to hopefully cover.
Yeah.
Diabetes for me has always been an intriguing part. I look after patients with asthma, but I always feel that some with asthma, you have to get the treatment right because it's a breathing difficulty and any mistake can cost someone's life straight away. Not that we make mistakes in diabetes, I have to put that in. But I was always intrigued about this disease, in quote, that people may not feel. Again, we'll cover that hopefully later. That people may not feel, but is seriously progressing in the body. And out of all the diseases, I'm not really a respiratory girl. I can handle the main respiratory issues and get a patient well, and I'll put them over to the specialist. But endocrinology, which has got to do with diabetes, the thyroids, and everything that has to do with diabetes, has always been something that has intrigued me. And then obviously fast forwarded to the fact that I had parents who had diabetes. So I am someone who's at a high risk of developing diabetes, so I have to be cautioned. I have a lot of family members with diabetes, and the fact that there wasn't enough information growing up in Nigeria for them, and it was just you have diabetes, that's it, and and go away. And seeing that there are a lot of people are getting repercussions from not actually getting the right information caused my intrigue. You know, like the fact that I was more intrigued into it, and then obviously I lost my mom to diabetes from the fact that her control was not really managed properly. Within the setting that she was in, and that just fired me into really, really wanting some other person's mom or dad or auntie or sister or themselves not to really go through what my family had to deal with.
Oh my God, so sorry to hear that. So in other words, from based on what you're saying, you need the knowledge, the skill, the experience to
passion,
go into the industry,
and the compassion.
And the passion. You can't just go in and say, well, because of the money you're going to go in.
It's not that much money.
Oh.
Being a question.
Oh my God. Okay, well, in that case, guys, but even at that, people should be the focus. It's not what you're getting. It's not about the money. When I go into project as a health and safety consultant, I'm not going in because of the money. I'm going in because of the impact I'm going to make in the lives of the people who are going to live in the house or live in the project or live in that particular area when I'm done. I'm so glad to hear that, you know. But you see, one of the skills you said you covered in becoming a pharmacist is your ability to relate, your ability to be able to manage people well. Would that be something that someone should just throw overboard, or you know what, should focus on?
What to be
Is
able
that
to,
one skill
sorry, you
that
broke up for a little bit.
okay? Yeah, that ability to manage and relate with people. It seems is a top priority in your job. What do you think about that?
You can't fake it if you don't have it. I always say, everyone obviously relates with people, but there's some personalities that may be best suited to. In health, generally, you don't have to be a diabetologist, or you don't have to be a specialist within your area, because diabetologists are doctors who are specialists in diabetes. You don't. You could be a hepatologist, which is to do with, a hematologist, which is the liver, or wherever field you're in. If you're in the healthcare profession, you kind of need, to have, most people, I would think, going to the health profession, not for the money, because jokes apart, there isn't really that much money in the health profession. It's really the passion and the care for people. And you have a heart in seeing people get better. You want to see people get better. You want to improve their knowledge so that they can get better. I always say, sorry, I'm going back to being a Christian, that everybody has a purpose in life. But the thing is that if you have a disease that is limiting you or causes your life to cut short, you would never fulfill your purpose in life. Whatever religion you believe in, if you are meant to live till maybe God, the clock for you is 70 or 80 or 90, and you have this disease that's not managed through either lack of understanding or proper clinician, and your life is cut short at 50, you're not going to be able to have the remaining time or whatever impact that you're supposed to have in life. So you need to have that, obviously knowledge, you need to have the passion, and you need to have the ability to relate with people on the ground level and actually have empathy. So it's not sympathy, it's empathy. Like knowing that, yes, I may not have diabetes, or I may not have a family member with diabetes, but you're able to relate with people on one level or the other, or you just have that passion to help people.
Wow. You know what I'm so passionate about this topic? I want us to go into the topic. It's going to help me and help quite a lot of people. My cousin died as a result of complications from diabetes. So what happened was, it's quite, all of a sudden, it just went down the drain. He became blind. Then the next thing, no treatment. And it was in Nigeria, of course, no treatment. They used the traditional herbs and everything. It didn't work. And then he just passed on. Young guy, full of life. It touches me so much. So when I heard about this, bringing you on this program, I said, you know what? It just have to happen. Now, guys, I know you're listening out there. If you've got any question for Tony, please put it on the chat and I will send it straight to her so that she can answer your questions. And if you want to meet up with her after this, you can get to her channel, Diabetes Consult. Go and subscribe, log in, hit the notification button so that whenever she's live, you can always ask her some questions. Now, I want to ask you a very personal question. You're a mother. You work with the NHS. And you've got your own business, Diabetes Consult. How do you manage all this? How do you juggle all this?
Should I say I don't?
And I forgot to add, you're married.
Yes. I would say that obviously God is the center of my life and he helps me. But realistically, and I'm not saying this because maybe he's listening, I have an amazing husband, and I have to really give credit to him. A lot of the things at home, so I cook and I'm a very good cook. But my husband also cooks. So there's certain times, like this evening, for example, because I'm here, I already know my daughter's had something to eat. So he's sorted her out. So having that support, the family background is essential. In the morning, he allows me to lie in. I use the word allows me to lie in for another 15, 20 minutes because he helps me to get my daughter to get ready, because he knows I don't go to bed until about 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 1 o'clock. So if I have to be up for 6 o'clock, he would rather get up at 6:30 and allow me that extra 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes to sleep on most days, if not all. So on that aspect, yes, I do have that support. I have a very strong supportive friendships and family members that chip in to help with childcare, help with other things. And then coming down to me, I obviously do my full-time work. And when I'm at work, I give my 110%. I don't mix my business with work. When I'm at work, I focus on work. I work, like full-time hours, but obviously I start early and I finish early. I get home, spend time with my child. And then once she's going to bed, which we've put in a routine, she's in bed in time. I try to spend time with my husband. And then I just rest and then get the work going. So you would say that my mind is always, but then Sundays most recently, I have dedicated Sundays. So you're eating into my family time. But
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I've dedicated Sundays to being family time, just spending time, in church and then coming home and just being in them without doing any work as best as possible. So I try to, obviously, and when I'm overwhelmed, I just go back to God and say, I'm really overwhelmed. I need your help. So yeah.
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that. I can see people chipping in, just coming in and leaving, but I want us to go straight to the main issue. What is diabetes? Tell us about it. Okay. You've told us so much about your life, how you got to where you are now. I'm really motivated, and I know many people are. So I might be bringing you back to the channel again, but what's diabetes? Let's look at that.
So in simple terms, I'm trying not to be clinical, and I'll do it like I would if I had a patient in front of me. In simple terms, diabetes is what we call the disease where there is a lot of sugar in your bloodstream. Now, I'm going to take it a step back, saying that in the body we have different organs, and there's a particular organ called the pancreas that is responsible for creating or producing insulin. Okay, and insulin is something that works on sugar, so glucose. So when you eat certain foods, for example, carbohydrates, which being your rice, your potato, your pasta, or fruits, certain fruits that have natural sugars, or other fruits that have a bit of carbohydrate in them, when they get into the body churns it out and then turns it into glucose, which is sugar. Now, if you don't have diabetes, when you get into the body, the pancreas then makes the insulin goes to attack that sugar, not attack it, get the sugar that your body has made, and then takes it through your cells to the different organs so that you're able to live and breathe every day. Now, in diabetes, that functionality of the pancreas making insulin is either completely gone, which is your type 1 diabetes, I'll get to that, or it's reduced in functionality, or it doesn't work in the sense that the insulin produced there's too much sugar in the blood, so the insulin is coming out, but it's not able to take that sugar to the parts of the body that it needs. So it can take a bit of sugar, but then there's still that sugar. So the more you eat and then you put into the body, it then causes a buildup of this sugar in the body. And as a result, once the pancreas is trying to make insulin, it's a bit like a lock and key situation. It's trying to meet up with this excess glucose. When it gets to a certain stage in certain people, the insulin just completely packs up after a while.
Wow.
Okay. And in other people, there's reduced sensitivity. So it doesn't make enough insulin to meet up with the demands.
Man, this is, when we're preparing for this live stream, I spoke with a friend of mine from the Philippines, and one of the things he told me is that their staple food they eat every day is rice, and that's carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Wow, this is I know there are different types of diabetes as you've spoken about, type 1, type 2, but can we get to understand which is which?
Okay, so in simple terms, there are two major types of diabetes that people know about. There is the type 1 diabetes.
Wait, hold on. So, two major types that we know about. So there is more.
There are more.
Oh my God. You might throw a little bit of light on those ones, but let's go on first.
I'm trying not to get too clinical. There is type 1 diabetes, which, like I explained, in type 1 diabetes, it's normally diabetes mostly seen in the young, so people under 40. And in type 1 diabetes, rather, the pancreas, which, like I said before, is responsible for producing insulin, the pancreas completely packs up. Okay, the body has a system, it's called an autoimmune disease, where the body fights against itself and completely shuts the pancreas down, in simple terms. So the pancreas is not working, and in that way, it doesn't produce the insulin that it needs to produce to be able to carry what you're eating from the foods to the rest of the body. So there's build up of insulin. Now that's type 1. I'm going to park it there because that's a completely different topic. Type 2 diabetes. So going back to type 1, in type 1 diabetes, no matter what they do, it's not about lifestyle, it's not about anything, it's not about being fit or unfit or whatever. Their pancreas is packed up, so they would need us to give them insulin for their body to work. Without that insulin, they will die.
Just a quick question before you go on. Now, in type 1 diabetes, is as a result of the issues with the pancreas. Can they do a transplant?
We've seen people in practice, very rare, but we've seen people in practice that have had issues with the pancreas or have had pancreatic cancer, or they've had like a transplant, and it has reverted that. But now, with the number of diabetic people with diabetes, well, according to the World Health Organization, people with diabetes, it's about 433 million people worldwide with diabetes. Now, in type 1, type 2, which is what I'm going to go on to explain, accounts for 90% of that diabetes, whereas the rest of the 10% is split between type 1 and the other types of diabetes. So type 2 is your more prevalent, it's more prevalent, and it's seen in people who are a lot older. So normally in previous times, I say seen in people who are a lot older. Normally in previous times, we would say type 2 diabetes is seen in people who are 40 years and above.
Yeah.
But in recent times, we've had children who are as young as 12 and younger who have type 2 diabetes. And most of the diabetes is as a result of, we would say, age. Those are your risk factors. We would say lifestyle. We would say things to do with, and we're seeing increasing amount of obesity and people who are overweight.
Yeah.
Either because of inactive lifestyles, family history, genetics, whatever. That is increasing the number of, patients with type 2 diabetes. And in type 2 diabetes against type 1 diabetes, in the sense that the pancreas makes insulin, but the insulin is either not sufficient to be able to keep up with that carbohydrate that we talked about, or the fact that after a while, the pancreas, you get what we call resistance.
Wow.
I'm trying to make it as simple as I can.
No. For me, I think that this is a very important topic. If we've got you said about 400 and something million people worldwide.
433 and counting.
433 million people worldwide, and still counting. And some people have not even gone for any treatment or diagnosis to find out what's going on. I think everybody needs to hear this. Now, guys, what I'm going to do with this is that by the time we're done with this live stream, I'm going to take them into different sections so that you can listen to them over and over. Because I believe that if we can know how to prevent it, we can stop it before we even get to that place where it now becomes, something that we can't prevent. But tell us more about it. You were going to say something now.
So I said, obviously, that the two major types that are known is type 1 and type 2. Without going in, I'm not going to explain the other ones.
Yeah.
There are different types of diabetes. You have your what we call LADA, so LADA, which is latent autoimmune disease of adulthood. In LADA patients, they're classed as type 1, 1.5, 1.5. The reason why they're classed as type 1.5 for simplicity's sake is because they sit between what we call a type 1 and a type 2. Sometimes they display symptoms that are very similar to those who are type 1, and I'll go into the symptoms of diabetes later. And sometimes they come up, and when they come to practice, you would look at them, they're overweight, they're everything, and you think that's definitely type 2. And it takes about 6 months to a year of treating them and not seeing any improvement in their blood sugar levels for you to think, this may be what we call a LADA. And then you have to refer them on to secondary care, which is hospital, to have specific blood tests to determine if they are LADA, because the change is in the management of their diabetes, because some of them will end up needing insulin. Okay, and we're finding more that a lot of the BAME community, some of the BAME community are falling into that category, but not having the adequate, testing to know that they have LADA. The other type of diabetes is what we call MODY, which is a maturity onset of diabetes in the young. Okay, they're young, they don't fit into your type 1 diabetes. So the treatment of that again requires blood tests, that specific genetic blood tests that would prove whether they are diabetic or not. And then you have, some other subsets, which I'm not going to go into.
So in other words, the finger prick that we do with the blood glucose machine does not really tell us much, except you have to go for blood tests.
So the diagnosis of diabetes, obviously, most people say, I'm fine, I don't have symptoms, because the symptoms of diabetes would be your tiredness. People would get we call it lethargy or tiredness. You feel very tired, increased thirst. You're always, no matter how much you drink, you're always thirsty. You're forever going to the toilet. You have what we call polyuria, which is obviously passing urine during the day, and nocturia, which is at night, you're getting up all the time, going to the toilet. Your wounds, you have wounds that don't heal quickly. For men and women, they have thrush, either vaginal or penile thrush, and it just keeps coming back. No matter how much they treat it, it just keeps coming back. But like I said, those are the symptoms, but not everybody shows symptoms. In fact, research was showing that for some people who don't even show symptoms, it can take up to 10 years for the diabetes to be in the body before they realize that they actually have diabetes. And for some, by the time you're being diagnosed, it's a little bit too late. Because
sorry about that. When you say it takes up to 10 years, what about if somebody goes for the regular MOT that they go for when you go for your GP? Can you tell them, I want this blood test done for me?
In the normal world, yes, you can tell them, especially if you, like I said, we're going back and forth, but I'm trying to keep everyone in sync. Some of the risk factors of diabetes is to do with age. The older one gets, for some people, the pancreatic function reduces as you get older. Inactivity, people are not as active as they get older. So obviously you're having a more sedentary lifestyle. You have diet and lifestyle, health inequalities. People are, like you said, in countries where people cannot afford anything but rice, which is simple, gari in the African community, ethnicity, things like that. They play a major risk factor. But most importantly, if you, obviously being overweight as well, but if you have a family history, like I said earlier, I have a very strong family history of diabetes. My mom was diabetic. My father was diabetic. I had aunties who were diabetic. Wow. And obviously, I fall into the category of being overweight. So I have to constantly be conscious of the fact that my risk is high. So I have to think about, factors that would reduce that risk, which we're getting to. So having a blood prick test is relevant for some people. It helps them. But for some others, it doesn't really give an adequate, because in as much as we have diabetes, we have what we call pre-diabetes. So pre-diabetes is a precursor to diabetes. Okay. They're setting, I don't have my work bag here. Oh, I do. So this is what I use for my patients. Okay. I'm just gonna, I always say that, if you're in this light green category, you're not diabetic. Once you get into the dark green category, you are pre-diabetic. And then once you've had a blood test, which is your glycated hemoglobin, you become diabetic. Okay. So after that, whatever category. So I've had patients who've come for the first time and they've never had a health check, and they're somewhere here or beyond the scale. Okay. And that's really, really alarming. So when you have when you're 40 in England, I don't know about other countries, but when you're 40 in England, they require you to go for a blood test. They'll do a finger prick and they'll do other blood tests. I always employ people to go for that and not just say, oh, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me. Go for it, because that may be a determining factor that will tell you if you're pre-diabetic. And if you have a strong family history, going back to your question of diabetes, it's something where at least every 2 to 5 years, you should get yourself checked for blood tests. If you're pre-diabetic, you should automatically get checked once a year, because you can anytime switch from being pre-diabetic to being diabetic.
My goodness. Can you do us a favor? You see the chart you just showed us now, or the scale. Can we get a link to that? And I'll paste it in the description box. So if somebody wants to look at it or copy it and then get back to you, I think that'll be very good. We'll appreciate that.
I'll send it to you, but it may not be it's not really relevant to them, because they need to have a blood test, because they wouldn't be able to know, because that is from actually, there's no harm. It's on the internet. It's a lady who does an amazing training, who trains clinicians on how to start injectables. But it's really for clinicians, because you look at it and you look at the scale and you kind of know, and it helps you to explain things to your patients who have pre-diabetes. And for me, the picture works in a good way, because even if they're diabetic and let's say their diabetes is really bad, or it's in the red zone, I would say to them, for example, I would say to them, this is where you are. Sorry, I'm trying to get in the camera. This is where you are. And this is where I want you to be. But I cannot drop you from here to here straight away. We have to work our way back. So they see that picture. So when they come, let's say they're 131, for example, and then they make an improvement to 86. Some of them feel really down and say, oh my God, I'm still in the red. And I say, no. You've actually made a drastic improvement. We're working in the right direction, and we're going in the right direction.
Good.
Okay. So yes, the answer is that I can make this accessible to you, but it's not going to mean anything to you, because people are not clinicians.
Okay. Well, anyway, if you want to get more information about what Toya is talking about, make sure you go to her YouTube channel, Diabetes Consult. I'll put the link in the description, and then just click on the subscription button so that you can always get in contact with her. This is amazing. Yeah, Vivian Shell is here. Thank you so much, Vivian Shell, for coming in. Julian Alborg is here. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody's getting something. But we've still got so many questions to take. So we've looked at the complications, but can you tell us a little bit about the complications of having this?
We looked at the risk factors, not complications.
Okay, the risk factors. Okay. Yeah. Let's go back a little bit before you take that. We've discussed about the symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've discussed about the causes. You said overweight, family, food, the lifestyle that we live.
Ethnicity, people who are South Asian origin, mostly in African Caribbean, and known to be more prevalent. Now they're still looking into it, because a part of it could be genetic, a part of it could be down to our lifestyle. The fact that we are very carb heavy in our diet. Very, very carb heavy.
So are you trying to say that we should leave all those bread, rice, and all those, and focus on the veg side?
I don't want to go into it because I have like what I show patients. But while we're on the topic, before I forget, I left it here because I didn't know what you would ask me. So, this is I'm trying to figure it. This is what I normally show to my.
If you move it back to the right a little bit, maybe to your left, perfect. That's good.
Right. So this is what I show my patients. When they say, ideally, in African or Asian community, we have the vegetable takes the place of the carbohydrates.
Yep.
And the rice and the carbohydrate takes the place of the vegetable, and then you have the protein and remains the same. In most communities, the plate is reversed. They have the carbohydrate, the rice, the yam, the gari is loaded. And then where the carbs is where the vegetable, if at all they have vegetable, or they have where the vegetable and the carbs is, they have all of that as their carbohydrate. And then they have the protein here. In an ideal world, if you are diabetic, you can still eat what you want to eat. Because people say the moment I'm diabetic, oh my God, I'm never going to eat rice again. I'm not going to eat yam. you're just deceiving yourself, because after like a couple of months, you're going to go back. There are very few people that have the strong will. We normally say introduce this and have your vegetables there, here, have your carbohydrates here, and have your protein here. If it's new to you, I always say start slow. Cut the vegetables and have, like, if you want to include the carbs. So if you're used to eating a plate full of carbohydrates, cut it down, like maybe make from there to there your carbohydrates and have more vegetables, and increase the vegetables as you go on.
Wow. Now, this is very interesting. I wish we're going to spend time here, Tony. If we can't do this today, we'll have part 2 the other time, because this is important. You've just dealt with an aspect that's very important to everyone listening here. A quick question I want to ask you. If I now decide to say, okay, well, I'm going to change my lifestyle from today, for example, I'm just going to focus on making sure that on my plate, we have more of the veg. Will it in any way help me or help my lifestyle? I know people will say, oh, that's easy to know, but I want to find out from you.
So if you already have diabetes, it would help in the sense that we have a couple of patients that drastically change their lifestyle and go from the red region to the green region, even to the pre-diabetic, or they completely change it. Now, that is possible. And people say, oh, your diabetes is cured. The answer is that your diabetes is not cured. Your diabetes is what we call in remission. In remission, in simple terms, means it's somewhere in the background and it's under control, which means that the complications, the risk factors of getting the complications, which we're going to go into, is actually reduced. Okay. The moment you revert back to your normal habits, or as we say, you probably get older, inactivity, reduced pancreatic factors or function rather, there is a likelihood that diabetes will creep back in.
Wow.
So diabetes in terms cannot be cured, but it can be put into remission with the right lifestyle. And while we're here, I always say to people, if you're in England or you have the typical English diet, there is obviously the Michael Mosley. There's a guy called Michael Mosley who's created the 800 calorie diet and actually would help you to transform. But if you're African Caribbean, you're going to need a lot more help, and you're going to need clinical assistance to be able to get there. Or if you're Asian as well, because you need someone to sit down and with you, which is something that obviously consultations with a clinician the right clinician, would help you to accomplish.
Wow, this is amazing. We've got like 9 people who are watching us now on YouTube, and so many other ones on Facebook. Can this be cured? Can type 2 diabetes be cured?
I just answered that. It can go into remission with the change in lifestyle and diet, and possibly stay in remission for a very long time, all the rest of your life. But there is that likelihood that it may actually pop back.
That was not curable then. Once you get it, that's it. Because remission means...
once you get it, we advise that obviously as best as possible to keep it in remission if possible. If you're in remission, you can technically keep it as the term it's cured, but we don't want to lose. So if I code a patient, because we have different codes in the NHS, if I code a patient as being in remission, I would keep an eye on that patient. I will still get them to come in once a year to have a blood test done.
Okay.
To make sure they're still in remission. So I don't say you're in remission, goodbye, good luck, and that's it for the rest of your life. I will bring you back in to have a blood test once a year. We'll still check your foot check, because remember, we don't know how exposed you've been. Your body has been to the diabetes. Remember, I said that for some people, it can take up to 10 years for them to get the symptoms or get the diagnosis. So if your body has been exposed to a very high amount of sugar for a long period of time, it may already be causing a lot of damage, to your system. Okay. I always say, it's difficult to put all of the knowledge, but I always say that if you imagine a bucket of water, this is a glass of water, and you were diabetic, it depends on where on the scale you are with diabetes. If you have a lot of sugar, if I was to physically or imagine that I'm taking out your eyes, your kidneys, your organs, and this water, I've now poured a whole bag of sugar in this water. Okay, so it's not clear water, it's now very high concentrated sugar water, which is what diabetes is. Your blood levels are actually very full of glucose.
Yeah.
If I was to take out your eyes, your kidneys, your nerve endings, and I put it in this water, this sugared water, if I quickly take it out, I'm going to be able to rinse out the sugar that is on the organs.
Yeah.
But if I leave this organs in this sugared water for a long period of time, the water particles which has sugar in is already permeating through the organs.
Yeah.
And is beginning to have an effect and a change in the organs.
Yeah.
So yes, you may be able to, to get your diabetes in remission, but if you were diabetic and your organs have been exposed to a very concentrated amount of sugar for a long period of time, the damage to some of your organs may already have been done.
Oh my God. Ha! It's a little bit frightening, because
shouldn't be frightening.
Yeah, because you see, we use two words when I ask the question, can it be cured? Remission. There are two different words entirely. So in other words, I don't want to advise anybody, but I would recommend that we change our lifestyle completely.
Yes.
It's better to avoid it coming into your system or your body, because like what you described now, if the glass is right there and the organs are in soaked with sugar already, they permitted the organs, they are in already. So if you bring them out and shake them out, they are still in. So
you might be able to rinse them off a little bit, but you might not be able to do much. That's what I say to patients, which obviously leads me on to the complications. Because I know you asked me about the complications. Why not go in and out? So some of the complications is that diabetes can obviously affect, like the higher the glucose level is, it permeates through the organs. So it can affect the heart. And where it affects the heart, it can lead to things like a stroke or heart failure. Or heart attacks. It affects the eyes. It can cause diabetic retinopathy, which is, in simple terms, the retina part. Obviously you have, I believe you've brought someone on to talk about the eyes before, but on my channel, there's a topic about, diabetes and the eyes, where sometimes you can have a detaching of the retina. And in England, we're fortunate enough where the people who live with diabetes are referred to the diabetes eye clinicians, and they obviously get an eye check, and we get the results back, and we can interpret, in simple terms, the results, and we know if you're already in a retinopathy stage 1, there may be something we can do about it. So if we control your blood sugars, we may be able to reverse that. If you're already deep into it, there's already like an effect that the vision is beginning to get affected. So some people, they don't feel it straight away. They can still see, but the back of the eyes is already having a problem. It can affect the nerve endings. So people can actually start to get loss of sensation in the feet. Some of them may not know. So if they walk around and they step on like a nail or something, it's slow healing. You can get like amputations, or what we call shackle foot, where the body, very few patients I have, where your nails and your toes are actually disintegrating. For men, and I don't do this to scare any man, because obviously the penile area has got nerve endings, it leads to a lot of erectile dysfunction.
Wow.
The kidneys can get affected, where people can then get chronic kidney disease and end up with dialysis, and so on and so forth. So there's so many complications that arise from an uncontrolled diabetes. So I have to stress the fact, because obviously I don't want to seem like I'm here to scare people. The fact that you have diabetes is not technically a problem. Ideally, we wouldn't want you to have diabetes. But if you have diabetes, it is actually, inherent. And, I cannot stress it enough that you have to ensure that your control is adequate, and you are actually within the control as best as possible, because that reduces all these complications from happening.
My God, I've got a comment here. Now, guys, if you're in this channel now and you're watching, tell your friends. I'm going to bring Toye and Dr. Chi. Now, Dr. Chi is an eye specialist, while Toye is a diabetes and hypertension specialist. I'm going to bring them in, a pharmacist. They're going to, we're going to be having some questions. Now, there is a comment here from Raisy's Kitchen. Raisy's Kitchen said, wow, eye-opener. So lifestyle choice can help, but there is no cure.
Technically, there is no cure. You can't say that when you're in remission for long, because you do have, and I have very, very, very limited amount in number of patients rather, who have remained in remission for years, and in their minds and in technically you can say that they're being cured, but really the terminology is that they're in remission.
I want you to go back again and there's some questions I want to ask, which is we might have gone through it again, but I believe repetition will help people who are watching right now. Now, there's a question I said there's an increasing number of diagnoses of type 2 diabetes. What's your advice to people and parents on this? I know you've spoken about lifestyle, exercise, but you could say more. Let me hear what you've got to say.
So to the parents, I'm a mom, and I come from what they call a rather large family, in size. So ever since I was a teenager, I've always fought the weight. So being a mom, my child is not heavy. She's very athletic, very sporty. I encourage her to do a lot of sports within her ability. She's only 7. But I try to manage what she eats. So over the lockdown period, we discovered this Aldi brioche bread. And I thought I was doing her good. So I was buying it. And she would just eat like a whole loaf of bread within a week. And then I started looking at her and thinking, hang on. The weight was coming in, like around, because obviously it's the abdominal area. And so what we did was that we cut down on the bread. I stopped buying the bread. So my child, and I cannot say this for every parent, my child does not have a choice in the type of bread that she eats. I don't say, I'm only going to give you white. We eat brown granulated bread, and I'm not going to go into the diet. And when she's having, let's say, beans and toast, I would give her brown bread because I know that that's actually better for her. I'm not saying that she doesn't have things like the brioche, or she likes a lot of sweets. She doesn't like chocolate. So we have an agreement. We don't introduce sweets into the house. You have to do something nice for you to get sweets in my house. That is not possible in some homes. But I believe that when you have children, how you start with them and how you lay the foundation is actually realistic. In our time, or I say our time because I consider myself a little bit older, even though I may not be to some people. But in my time when I was growing up, we could go outside, we could play on the trees, we could play with the neighbors, and we were always active. Now the children are in front of the computer, in front of the TV, they're not moving. And like people of the BAME community, and no disrespect to us, we're always working. So we don't have the time to take our children to activities. We don't take them outside. We don't, because we're always going to work. So the children spend more time out there. So my advice to parents is obviously keep your children as active as possible. Look at their food. Introduce vegetables when you can. I never really liked vegetables, but now I like vegetables. My daughter can eat broccoli raw. I don't lay claims to that. I think it's her school. She eats a lot of vegetables. So for her talk, we don't give her anything that's quite heavy. She has a lot of vegetables. She has a lot of, and that's what the school wants. So I always say for the parents, keep them active. Look at the food, look at the quantity, train them now. Don't heap it up and say, oh, I need a bit more flesh in you. The body doesn't really need that much carbohydrate for it to function. It needs a minimal amount. And the body can function with certain things. You're not starving your children. For the adults, obviously, you need to get a way of life. Like I said, I come from a big family. Recently, I noticed that the weight is going on in a bit more places that I would actually like it to lock down or not. And obviously, comfort eating, working through the night. So I personally have now registered with a personal trainer. And I train 2 or 3 times a week and now anything I want to put in my mouth, I think, oh my God, I have to work out on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday. I am not going to do that. So being more conscious of it. If you're struggling with weight, like some of us are because of our family background, then you need to make sure that you're quite active. Don't use your weight as an excuse that you can't do stuff. Look at your diet, look at your lifestyle, and actually make those changes.
Wow, so many things, man. Diet, lifestyle, uh, change of so many things going on right now. And I hope everyone is taking it on board. I want to say thank you so much for being here once again, Tony. We appreciate you. Lore Injo Atsuba, thank you so much. Pino Trendy Stories channel, thank you so much. Nonye Ebuna, thank you so much. She said her children love that bread. Oh, that's good. So well, Tony has told us about the bread now. Cut it down, man. Cut it down. Then she's asking the question. She said, is green tea good for diabetes?
It's something that we encourage in terms of digestion. It helps for digestion. But if you're eating a lot of, let's say you heap the gari and you heap the rice, and then you say I'm going to have green tea to help with that, that's not really going to work. It helps with the digestive process. So yes, generally green tea is good for the body. But in relation to diabetes, I haven't looked into any evidence to show that there is any evidence to say that it does.
You've dealt on. There was a question I was going to ask, but you've answered that already. Based on years of experience in this industry, how can you avoid type 2 diabetes? You've already spoken on the lifestyle needs to change, the diet needs to change, encourage the kids to eat. But there was something I wanted to ask you. It's very difficult for you to encourage the children to eat veg. How do you work around that? I know your daughter has, so what's your advice to parents out there? Stop. Everybody focus on veg and just focus on the greens.
You're going to have a riot in your house if you do that. I think it depends on how you start there. And you can't say, so my sister-in-law, for example, when she had her children who were a lot younger than mine, she kept saying, I love the way you brought your daughter up. And I'm going to, because my brother does not eat the vegetables. You would have to shoot him to eat vegetables. But my niece and nephew, I've already been introduced because my sister-in-law has seen that. Now, not saying that that is applicable in every home, because there's some children that don't like vegetables, but there must be one vegetable or two vegetables that your children like. For example, cauliflower is a no-no, Brussels sprouts is a no-no in my home. My daughter loves sweet corn, which obviously has sugar in it, so she loves broccoli. She would not eat aubergines or courgettes. She's just going to look at you and go, ugh. And she argues with me that potato is a vegetable, which is a root vegetable if you put it into that. But I have to explain to her why that's not. But she likes things like green pepper. She likes the peppers. She likes the red and the yellow peppers. There are certain vegetables that she likes. So I introduced that into her meal. Wow. So I would say that your children may not like the usual vegetables. If they like carrots, give them carrots. Like children, I find, I'm not a child specialist, but I think that it's a habit that after a while they would adapt to that. They will kick off. It can take you weeks and months to get it in. And worse off if your children are a lot older and maybe a little bit too late. If they're younger, I started mine from when she was 1. When she started eating, I started putting it in. If you have young children, then obviously introduce that in.
Good. Now, if you want to contact Tony, this is her channel is just scrolling down the screen now, so it's across the screen. So, Diabetes Consult, hit the subscription button there. Send her any question you want to ask. And if you've got any question you want to contact her, you can contact me and I'll send you details on how you can if you can't get into her channel. But I have a question here. Somebody said, Reggie's Kitchen said, is honey good for diabetes? No, I'm just picking the questions as it comes.
Honey is sugar.
Natural one from the main guy in the,
It still raises the blood sugar level. I had a gentleman who his blood sugar was through the roof, and digging in, it obviously he had other lifestyle issues in terms of diet, but a lot of it was to do with honey. I'm not saying you can't use honey at all, but if you substitute honey for sugar, your blood sugar would go up because honey has got natural sugar in it. So we reduce honey. So I wouldn't say it's good for diabetes. It's not. We would rather the alternatives will be sweeteners. Ideally, if you can go without, it's a natural occurrence. Your body, your taste buds would have to get used to it. It's like when we encourage those who are hypertensive to stop the salt or reduce the salt, we say that your taste buds may seem bland, but your body naturally adjusts to it. So if you can have coffee or tea or breakfast, like at home, my daughter does not have. We suddenly, like in the lockdown, we noticed a lot of things we introduced to her. So we stopped, like introducing egg. We used to put extra honey. We used to give her frosted flakes. Now I've moved from frosted flakes to cornflakes. And the first couple of times she was like, I don't want to eat this because it's not sweet. And she ate it. You can call me a strict mom, but obviously I can already see the things that I'm trying to avoid in her. So if you can go without the sweetness, we would say encourage you to. If you cannot, then we would say obviously that we encourage you to have sweetness. But obviously there's a myth around sweetness going on. I just talked about that.
We just talked about sweetness. I love that. That's good. That's good. It's so interesting. This topic is so interesting, and I will advise everyone listening and those who are here, share it with your friends, hit the thumb up, leave your comment. Try as much as possible to educate people about the effect and the impact of what we are putting into our body that could in the future lead to other things, about our health.
Can I just say something? I did a show with a dietitian a while back.
Yeah.
One of the things I would say to people is, please, if somebody's diabetic around you, do not shame them with food. That's the last thing you want to do. That's a lot of things that people come to us, they're very down, they're very depressed because they want to eat rice and their family members are saying, should you be eating that? They want to eat yam, should you be eating that? There are ways in which you can actually talk to your family members or friends. We know you love them, and but really they're being managed by clinicians. And it's difficult because if you like something and someone's saying to you can't eat it, it's going to be difficult to make those lifestyle changes. So don't start saying to the patients, don't eat that because you're diabetic, don't eat that because don't have ice cream because you are. They can have things like that, but they can do it in moderation. You can technically eat anything you want to eat as a diabetic, but the stress word is in moderation. And your terminology versus the clinician's terminology of moderation differs.
Oh.
So you have to speak to, and obviously a lot of people stop, a lot of people stop taking their medications because they say, when they say I have diabetes and I feel fine. You are fine on the outside, but your insides are not fine. So see a clinician. In England, I know that the weight of diabetes is overwhelming us as clinicians. There are private services that are available out there. There's so many hospitals, invest in your health. I'm not saying this because I'm a diabetes consultant, but I'm just saying that invest in your health. If your control is not so good, or you think, oh, money, because the money you're saving now, when you get things like a heart attack or stroke or something like that in the future, all the money you saved up while you're young is going to go into it, much later.
Wow, you said so many things now. Number one, because I was going to ask you, if someone is maybe diagnosed with diabetes or is living with diabetes and is feeling a little bit funny. I know you said, number one, see the clinicians, change your lifestyle, change your diet. Is there any other thing that you think can be helpful to someone who is watching now or is going to watch this video in the future, or in the next few days?
There is what we call the burden of diabetes. Diabetes it's a lot to take in. It's a lot, especially if, like I said, there's a lot of BAME community and even the English community who get told that you need insulin. I get a lot of people screaming in my clinic room, I don't want insulin, I'd rather die than insulin. And we have to break that down to them. For example, if you've been told that you need insulin or you're on insulin, what that is doing for you is just introducing what your body naturally makes and cannot make anymore, which is sustainable for you to live. If you're burdened with diabetes, there is the emotional aspect of diabetes that it's a lot for someone to deal with or accept that they do have. If you do speak to someone, there are counseling services that are out there, that you can actually speak to someone about.
Wow. There's a question here. I don't know if it relates to this. Someone says, can you suggest something for hair loss due to breakup? And I've done a weight loss of 15 kg. Is that something that's related to your specialty or your field? I don't know who that is.
Hair
SN.
loss, it has a different, it's a consultation on its own.
Yeah.
Because you need to consult with someone, because we need to figure out what exactly is leading to that hair loss. There could be so many factors, and you need a consultation to be able to dig deep into your story. It's not something that clinically will be able to be done on the live stream. So I would say, obviously, speak to your GP if you're in England, or healthcare professional if you're out of England, about it, and they should dig it up. If you've lost over, because they said you've done a loss of 15 kilograms, we need to know if it's intentional, unintentional, and if it's associated with hair loss, could it be linked to something? There's so much, already my brain is ticking 180 degrees seeing that question. And it's something that a clinician would have to have a consultation with you about, to find out what exactly, or is it that there's just a genetic alopecia in the family? It's really wide. I can't take that over live stream.
Okay. Well, SN, I don't know who that is, but thank you so much for coming in. If you subscribe to my channel, just leave that question there and send me a comment, and we'll see how we can take it up. But if you live in UK, just like Toyin said now, see your clinician. If you live outside UK, please see a doctor. That will really help you. Now, we're getting towards the end of this live broadcast now. We've been here for about 1 hour, 14 minutes, and it's about 36 seconds. Now, quite a lot. Now, 20 is, so so what's going to happen is this. Just the last question, I like asking this question. Anyone that comes on the channel, because it will help someone out there. Somebody's on the road to greatness, but is being held back by failure of ridicule. What do you have to tell them?
I wonder what you mean by that. Okay. Ridicule in the sense that people are ridiculing them?
Yeah, and they just feel that, they are not good enough. They're not, achieving what they want to achieve, and they are on their way to greatness. Any word for someone there?
I think for me, it's to know why. It's to know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the purpose for which you're doing what you're doing? Are you doing it because the whole bandwagon is doing it? Are you, like I've had people say to me who are pharmacists or want to become pharmacists, I want to be a diabetes specialist. I feel like there's a lot of money in there. I want to own my own company. It's to know your why, because when you know your why, that keeps you rest assured, because when you come through the tough times, you would re-ask yourself. I give myself, for example, this week that's just gone by alone, I've had a lot of down valley moments where I've thought, why am I doing what I'm doing? But then when I remember the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, I don't listen to the talks. When I first started Diabetes Consult, or had the thoughts about Diabetes Consult, I had a lot of people say to me, it's not going to work. It's a great business idea. I don't think it's going to do anything. Now we've started, we're consulting, we're about to start consulting with people. We consult with people already. And then the same people who have said to me it's not going to work are the same people that say I want to invest. And it's not about me going back to say, haha, you told me that it's not going to work. No, it's about the fact that I know my why. The thing is that when people, in quote, ridicule you, you need to sit down and choose what you let into your ears. Some of them are propelling factors to get you to work better. And others, I don't dismiss what people say, negative or positive. I look at the negatives and I think, okay, you think it's not going to work because of this. Now, what are the reasons why you think it's not going to work? Or you don't have enough patients? Where are you going to get patients from? It makes me think, where are you going to get patients from? How do you get patients? And then propels me to now think about how to handle that negative thought that somebody has said to me. Or if it's a negative thought to say you're no good at all, there's nothing good about you, I just let it get in one ear like my mother taught me, and it comes out the other ear. Because at the end of the day, the only person that determines where your life goes to is God and you.
That's it.
Once God says to you, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whatever you are, whatever you believe in, I'm a Christian and I believe in God. If God says to me, this is the direction that I want you to go, and I'm rest assured that I've heard from him that this is the direction I want to go, only me and him are in that journey, And they always say, there's a saying that says that it's better to start something and fail than not start at all.
Perfect. That's good.
So
that's it. Yvonne, thank you so much for that. And I'll advise anyone out there, get a book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. You can just download it on Amazon. But my answer most times to those people who ask me such questions is this. Listen carefully. There's a book written by Stephen Covey, which is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 2, it said begin with the end in mind. You know where you're going. You know how you're going to get there, and focus on that. Tony, it's been a great time here. I've really enjoyed your time here, but I want to ask you, how are you getting on with your business, Diabetes Consult? Give us a little bit about that, or tell us about that. I'm going to bring you again to the channel when that your business, you said you just started it? When it's live?
I've started it. There's a
you
lot
started
of
it. Oh, great. Yeah. So I know now you're going to have questions about diabetes, what you need to do. Get in contact with me and I'll link you up with Toye. But her channel is just scrolling on the screen, which is Diabetes Consult. You can hit the notification button, leave a comment, watch her video, like her video, and become her member. You can even join her team and join her membership so that you can always get updates about diabetes. Tell us about the business.
Well, I can't tell you, otherwise I'll be telling the whole world.
Okay, tell us how we can
patronize you. Really, obviously, we look after people living with diabetes. So if you do have diabetes, then obviously reach out to us. If you're frustrated about your clinician who's looking after you, we don't claim to be the best, but obviously we're very knowledgeable. It's not just me, but I have a range of clinicians, diabetes specialist pharmacists, diabetes specialist nurses, GPs with special interest in diabetes. One of the things I would say before I go and talk about continuing with the business is that diabetes, which I'm guessing we will talk about because time is well spent, is not just treated as a single disease. It's not a disease of the sugar alone. There are other things that we have to look into, which probably will cover in part 2, if there is a part 2.
There is going to be.
Is that diabetes needs to be looked at in a triple manner. Okay, at least there are 8 factors, but the triple manner that reduces the complications and things like heart attacks is we look at your glucose control, we look at your blood pressure, and we look at your cholesterol level. Because if we manage one and we don't manage the other 2, it's a bit like having 3 bombs thrown into a house and having 2 bomb specialists or 1 bomb specialist come and attack 1 bomb. If the 3 bombs are all going off in 5 minutes and the specialist can take it out in 3.5 minutes, he might be able to detonate 1 bomb, but the other 2 bombs are going to explode and we will all die. So what I normally say is, I watch a lot of action movies sometimes, is that when we look at diabetes, don't be focused on just the sugars alone. We need to know what your blood pressure is doing. We need to know what your cholesterol is doing. We need to know what your lipid levels are doing and other factors as well. If you do get heart failure or angina or any of the other complications as a result of diabetes, we will manage you. And that's what Diabetes Consult is about. We have clinicians that are available to manage all forms of diabetes. Obviously, it's not on the NHS. And our services are available to people from wherever you are.
Wow. So that's it. So if you want to contact Toyin, you've got issues, you've got a family member who's got diabetes, anywhere in the world, you can always contact her. So I think this is the best you've given us so far, but just one last word before you leave. Just one last word. Yeah, so give us that last word. Anything?
Oh, one last word.
Yeah, one last word, please.
Having diabetes is not the end of the world. It is not a death sentence when you have a diagnosis. Okay. You can live well, live full with diabetes. You just need to be managed properly with the right education, with the right information, and with the right clinical service. And if you're prescribed medication, please, I beg you, take your medication. While we're trusting God for healing, we take our medication, because maybe that's something that He sent to obviously help you to get your healing. Don't be saying, I'm not going to take my medications. It's not a death sentence. Please do not leave this channel and think my life is doomed. No, it's not. It is not a death sentence. We have people who live till they're 90. My last patient on Friday was 96 with diabetes. Wow. Very well controlled. Very, very well controlled. And she's had it for over 30 years. So it's not a death sentence. As long as you follow the advice that's given to you, you can live well, live full, and live happy with diabetes. Wow. But we would like you not to get diabetes if possible.
That's it. We've heard so much today. Our lifestyle, the diet that we have, the food we take in, how we live, so much things that we need to do to avoid that. Now, before Toyin will leave, I want you to know that she's a registered UK independent prescriber or clinical pharmacist with a special interest in diabetes and hypertension management. She's also the founder of Diabetes Consults. Now, she graduated from the University of East Anglia, United Kingdom, and is a member of the General Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain. Now, she's also a member of, she's a member of the Primary Care Diabetes Society. Well, we'll name a few here, but if you want to get in contact with her, you've got any question, and you say, well, I can't get in contact with her, then send me a question or leave a comment on the comment box in my channel, and I will get in contact with you. Now, Tony, I want to say thank you so much for this time. It's just been a great time, but it's like being in a class, and I've learned so much. I'm going to start. I know I'm not on the big side, but from what you've discussed, it's not about being on the big side or on the slim side that matters now. The lifestyle, the way we eat, what we do, what we put in our body, what is already there, and I think right now we've learned so much. Now, if there's any question anybody want to ask, or how can they contact you apart from Diabetes Consult? Do you have any other means that they can contact you?
I'm on Instagram as Diabetes Consult. I'm Diabetes Consult all through. Also, the website should be available in the next month, hopefully, the next few weeks. But we do have a landing page, and you can subscribe or send me a subscription on there, which is www.diabetesconsults.
I'm just going to put that here.
Yeah. www.diabetesconsults is consults.com, and it will be forwarded into the email, and the admin team will pick it up and respond to you. But once the website is available, you'll be able to book in a consultation with any of the clinicians and have a chat, whether pre-diabetes, whether high blood pressure, whether your lipids, whatever concerns you've got. We'll be happy to answer it.
So in other words, the website is not up here, but the landing page is up. So anybody can go into the landing page, leave their details, and you will contact them in due course. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's where you spelt it. There is the S. Oh, there you go. We've done it.
That's it. Yeah. So it's diabetesconsults.com. So please, if you want to get in contact with Tony, that's it. Just go straight into the landing page now, leave your details, and she will get in contact with you. Tony, I want to say thank you so much for coming on this channel, and I'll be bringing you back again in the nearest future, maybe in the next 4, 5 weeks or 6 weeks. But this is a big, we've discussed so much today, and there's so much we've learned today, but we've still got room for more. And I believe that everyone here will agree with me. I want to say thank you so much from OG Oge's channel. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please do. And don't forget to go to our site, cvcoach2016.co.uk, and leave your details, and we'll get in contact with you. Now, we are doing a huge package and helping people who wants to get a job overseas and linking them up with the right group to come in. Now, please get in contact with us, and it's just for a limited time and just a limited number of people. In fact, let me tell you, this is a secret. Just 15 people. That's all we're aiming for. And after that, we'll close everything. Now, those of you listening to me on Facebook, if you want to get in contact with me, go straight to cvcoach2016.co.uk. fill out the contact us button form, and I will get in contact with you. And if you want anything in particular you want me to discuss about, go straight into this discussion that we'll have with Tony, and I'll send you my personal phone number. I have a phone number that I'll give to you. We can always talk on the phone, especially if you want to get into our program. So take advantage of it. Now, Tony, thank you so much again, and I appreciate you for coming in. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been here, and see you again very soon. Now, don't forget, next week, 6 p.m., I'm going to be here with somebody who will be telling you on how you can take your child to the star, how you can make your child stand out from other kids. It's going to be an amazing time. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, and don't forget to leave a comment. I'll be seeing you again next week. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Tony, thank you so much. Take care, and God bless you. Bye for now.